Hi, welcome to this rather fun special from Windows on the World, windowsontheworld.net, new show every Sunday, 9:30 p.m. Don't have to tell you that, it's all there. But over the next few weeks, we're going to have a bit of fun with, in essence, what has actually happened to what was called alternative media. It's just a bunch of grifters, narcissists, time wasters, and wafflers. And I did separate myself from this a long time ago, but it's got so serious, I thought we were in a crisis. We know we've got a climate crisis, don't we? But I think we're in an alternative media grifting crisis. And myself and Will Rowlands, we're going to have a chat about this tonight because we've been having a bit of a giggle about some of the most extreme grifters out there. And we've exchanged some information on them. And I think you'll find this interesting because you'll probably agree. So, Will, welcome.
Watching, Mark. Good to be on again. Thanks.
Yes. We've had a bit of a joke about this, but there's a serious side to it too, isn't there? Because the so-called alternative media is now just this circular nonsense that goes nowhere, that tells you what you already know. And it's not even a comfort zone. It's gone beyond a comfort zone. There's no information. This is what I'm finding. What's your opinion? Because you probably listen to more of it than I do now because I've become totally intolerant to anything that doesn't give me information.
Yeah, I'm getting that way myself. I think I have this point when if I've been listening to someone for, I don't know, a few episodes or a few hours and they haven't actually told me anything I didn't already know, then they're probably not worth following at all. And that's what I find with nearly all of this. It's an echo chamber. They cross promote each other. They're always doing that. I just wasn't finding any decent new content. So also I've started working full time, so I don't have the hours to listen to. So I basically don't really listen to much of it at all anymore. But the grifters. I mean, like you say, there's grifters who do it for money, clicks. There's hoaxes, and there's just the outright deviants and.
We're going to get onto the hoaxes, I think, in the next couple of weeks, because the hoaxes are, in a way, more interesting because they construct this inner world, which then they project on the outer world. And half of these conspiracy grifters latch onto the stories without even looking into them. I mean, the most recent one was, of course, the Hidden King of England. And we're going to do a special on that because all of that nonsense was actually written in my front room.
Yeah,
sorry, I thought you were going to jump in with that.
Yeah, no, I was going to say this. It's John Gregory Hallett, isn't it?
Joseph Gregory Hallett. Yeah.
Who is he's now calling himself King John III? Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. Well, I met him in 2010 with Jim Fetzer, and Fetzer's another one who jumps all out. Now, Fetzer is meant to be an expert in logic and reasoning. Whenever Greg Hallett says anything, he goes, "It's incredible, Greg." And it's just like, yeah, it's incredible that you sat there believing it, but I don't think that it's incredible that you're not pulling him up on anything, you know. But well, I think we should save the best till last in a way, because we don't want to. King John III is probably going to be the funniest show of all because I have everything. I have the whole story. I even went to Portugal to talk to the real Hidden King of England. Whether he is or not, who knows? But there's more chance of him being Hidden King of England than a bloke from New Zealand who's half Maori who sleeps on people's sofas.
Yes.
Not denigrating that, you know. I'm not being a sort of, you know, anti-minority here. But, well, yeah, he is in a minority of one, I suppose. But, yeah, it's incredible what's happened, isn't it? Because I think a lot of this started with the COVID thing. A lot of these grifters seem to jump on board. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a whole... it brought a good couple of million people who, and now they've just been awake for 5 minutes and will believe anything. And so a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, as they say. And I think it just set off every grifter. I think a lot of this is control. Some of it's controlled opposition. But
that's the interesting point. I think we've hit a good point here, Will. So when I started doing this, I found out that there were intelligence assets amongst these people. And they were very obvious in those days. And two of them, who I later met, one of them befriended me. I found out they were behind a website solely to attack me for not following the most ridiculous conspiracy story in modern history, which we're going to talk about over the next few weeks. But then I found a sinister side to it. So the reason for all this was because we were going into the courts. When I say we, there was a group of people who were working on different aspects of what was going on in the court system. I was also taking on local authorities and having a lot of success. And then, because of that, I found that my phone had been tapped, which was interesting. So there was a side of it which was quite sinister. But what I find highly entertaining is that these complete tossers with their big podcasting mics in front of their faces will go on and on and on about shit. Yeah, but yours is down there. They usually have it right up here in front of the face. So you've got to have it. Hang on, you've got to have it here, haven't you? Like that.
Yeah.
But you're not. There's no need for have it like that, because also you want your voice to go over the top of it in a way, because you know you get less breathiness. You know, and it's got a breath shield on anyway. So I think this is the difference you see between a true professional and
wannabe,
kind of wannabe. I'm getting this impression, but that was the really interesting thing about it. That to start with, there was some real infiltration, but now, because it's all a load of bollocks, they don't need to infiltrate, because they've infiltrated themselves.
It's got a life of its own. Just clowns everywhere, and
it's incredible, isn't it? And I think the rise of the grifter is particularly funny. We were trying to discuss who was the biggest grifter in the conspiracy circus. And I believe it's that amazing bloke from London Real. What do you think?
I think give him a big hand, Right.
I think it's the man.
Yeah. I mentioned to you just off air that I have a friend who's got I wouldn't call it an obsession, but he just loves to look at Brian Rose's material and then send me stuff. And he predicted, he says, right, when he doesn't win the London Mayor thing, which he obviously isn't going to do, he's going to start flogging crypto, and within like 1 week, that's exactly what he was doing. So he reads him like a book. So.
Well, just let me stop you there. I'm guessing you didn't donate.
I didn't donate. He gets really shirty with some of the people who are commenting. It's like, well, did you donate? But he had about 6 donation drives, and he had to raise money for, I think it was Rose Ike 3.
It couldn't be Ike Rose, could it? We were arguing before we went on air, though, weren't we? Well, whether it's going to be Windows Rowlands or Rowlands Windows, you know. Rowlands Windows sounds better, doesn't it? Sounds like a proper company, that. Oh yeah, Hugo Talks. That one's a complete tosser. How did you get away with being such an irritating, whining twat? You know, and then people follow him.
Yeah.
I did actually confront him once on his Facebook page, because I think he, as a sort of asset, which is what he is, because he's got nothing to say, and he just repeats back what his followers want him to say. Basically, he hasn't got any information. So. What he actually did.
Sorry to just butt in, but he there's a big clue. He just appears from nowhere. He was in the middle of COVID and had 500,000 followers immediately. That's just and he.
Well, he did something quite interesting. So he's also connected to harryandmeghan.com and all this stuff. So he's got all these different media sites. So I think that could be just a voiceover. No one knows what he looks like. Yeah. And this is another thing. You've got this whingy, whiny, irritating, half-assed student who turns up, and people don't say, well, who are you? You know?
Yeah, that's a big red flag there. Anyone who's that promoted just out of thin air is not.
Something interesting here, Will, because I went on this show with this fella. He was Jesse. I can't remember his second name, but he was quite young. He was quite earnest in a way, but he was rather new agey, a little bit naive. But unlike the rest of the grifters out there, he invited me onto his show. So I had a bit of respect for that. You know, he might be talking about chakras and crystals, but he got Windows in there, which is nice, you know.
Yeah.
Well, chakras, Windows go with crystals anyway, don't they? Yeah. Not so about chakras. Have you had your chakras removed, by the way? Because that was a big thing.
I've got them all 7. Is it 7, I think?
I think it's 7, yeah. Just look after the crown one, you know, and don't let your heart chakra rule your head, you know, all that sort of stuff. But what was sinister about him, right? This Hugo, whatever his name is. I mean, someone called Hugo with a voice like that, who'd take him seriously anyway, you know.
Yeah.
Hugo. What a tosser's voice. But the point is that this Jesse fella, Jesse Hal, his name was Jesse Hal, was in Canada or something.
Right.
I thought he was very polite. I thought he did a good show. We got onto really serious stuff. Obviously, he was a bit new agey, and I was hitting him with the hard truth rather than, you know, the we're winning truth and what to do about it. But this Hugo Talks character then flashed a picture of me, Mark Windows, as though I was part of some new age cult. And he did it very subtly. So that to me suggests that that's an operation. As we know, these things aren't very successful. But what's more interesting to me is why people want to listen to rubbish like that. Have you got any idea? Because I just don't have one, you know.
No, I just Hugo Talks is not one that I sort of discovered on my own, but it was someone I met like during COVID, and they were playing him. And I think there's a formula there. These shortish videos, you know, between 5 and 10 minutes.
No depth. Yeah.
No depth, 2-3 a day.
No solutions, no wisdom, no insight, nothing.
All red flags. His volume of output as well, that's another red flag. But yeah, he was also focusing on what's the latest thing. And I don't think that's ever... Because I found myself doing this for about 5 or 6 years. Like I was... I'm trying to tell people, no, the media are lying to you, but this is the real story of what's happening about, I don't know, Iran's not trying to get a nuclear bomb, or Skripals weren't really attacked by Russian agents. And what I just found, I'm still being led around the nose by the bullshit media. And so it's like, no, just go and study something you want to study. And that was a bit of a wake-up call. But a lot of people just follow the news cycle. They're obsessed with it. They can't get away with it.
That's what the whole of the sort of cable and satellite news thing was about, wasn't it? The rolling news station with 3 stories an hour.
Yeah.
So that there's no news. So in other words, it destroys the news. Yeah. I remember when BBC 24 appeared, you know, 3 stories. Then you might get something else creeping in. But no information, nothing. Yeah. And I think that's the essence of it. And someone's just put in, give people a chance. No, we're not giving them a chance because we're talking about complete grifters and idiots. That's why we're talking about them. And if anybody wants to dispute anything I do, go to my website and then go to theirs and then get back to me. And you'll find a subtle difference, I think, you know.
Yeah, I mean...
But no, it's important, though, Will. It's important to bring this up because they're all grifting off each other. Jethro's brought up that other bloody idiot, Devlin, who cuts and pastes other people's stuff about... he's been in the music business, has he? Fuck, you know. What a
Devlin, yeah.
Oh,
I went to a tour. I
entertains every new age show. Wasn't he the one who was involved in the Matt Hancock arrest, promoting that? You know, how we're going to arrest Matt Hancock? I know. We'll send an email to the court. That'll do it, won't it?
Yeah. And they had a trial, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. There's been trials in many council car parks all over the country. Did you know this?
They do, driving around the M25. And, yeah, so can I just say to the person who wrote that, it's like I'm not kicking someone in the bollocks without a good reason here. So I think all these people...
No, that's the idea. I mean, we're past the point of caring, you see. Yeah. It's their own fault because what they've done by exposing themselves and not following integrity and just putting out this nonsense, they've destroyed the alternative media. That's the serious issue. Yeah. Because when I started out, it was alternative and we were doing stuff that had a huge effect, which is why this show was shut down. So when all this started, it's especially about last 2-3 years, it's now just a circular waste of time. And nothing I put out on my shows is a waste of time, guaranteed. Everything you'll find in my shows, you may not always want to hear the content. We're on to catastrophism at the moment. It all ties into a bigger picture, which is easy to understand, edited down, no BS.
Yeah.
And that's the point.
Yeah. And there's just so much of the same. And I'm in quite a lot of Telegram groups and they get quite big. And it's just, they say there's a sucker born every minute. And
so there's a tosser in here. I'm going to get rid of him. We got a troll here, so I'll just get rid of that.
Booted.
Yeah, we don't. There's enough of those in the alternative media. Oh God! I mean, but what a non-entity. I mean, seriously, nothing to offer, nothing to say, no solutions, knows nothing about anything. Perfect
and
for the grifting
so
media.
Serious as well, and so so earnest and serious, and so
irritating. Yeah. Really irritating. However, griftocracy—that's a good word, isn't it? The McCartney story. Well, actually, Nick Colostrum got into the McCartney story, where the Paul was replaced. And all right, it was in a car crash in 1966. If it was replaced, so what?
Yeah.
What about that impacts on your life? Nothing. It was a business, nothing personal. So what?
Yeah.
I was a very good friend of Denny Lane, still am, but I didn't even get onto that with him because it's, in a way, there is a bit of an enigma about it, but I don't find McCartney interesting enough to be even bothered about.
Yeah.
I find Ringo I find amusing. He was very funny in the 70s, wasn't he? He was very droll and funny. And when they went to see the Maharishi, I mean, George was taking it all seriously. And Ringo said, well, they took us up to the mountains. And I said, it was the morning. So I said, have you got any eggs? And they said, no, we haven't. And then I walked out and there was chickens and eggs everywhere. So I thought, these people are lying. What else are they lying about? And George Harrison got, oh, you just don't understand, Ringo. You just don't understand what, the higher meanings of all this. Yeah. It was great, I found that funny. But McCartney, no, I'd rather watch paint dry than watch him or listen to him. So it doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah. Oh yeah, Devlin jumps onto every bandwagon he can. I know, and the common law crap, anything that's current. I mean, he's probably one of the most mediocre and worst of the lot. But I wasn't even going to bring him up. But he was hanging around years ago at TPV with his conscious mixes, unconscious mixes. Yeah,
I got that. I got that vibe from reading in the Discord. I think what his mediocrity is what offends you, isn't it? It's
the mediocrity, but it's also that he's pointless. He's got nothing to say.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it's not original. It's like you say, it's cut and pasted from its ideas from other people.
Well, it's sort of, and also, what effect does any of that have on people's day-to-day lives? None. Then they all promote each other and go to all these new age talks, which is mostly nonsense. People selling themselves. And I had one of them on the show, and I was talking about communitarianism to her, and then she joins in with the brain dead, and it seems to be part of this zombie media that they all flock together. And I'm definitely on the outside, which is great because I was from the beginning, but now I'm really on the outside.
Yeah.
Which is actually better because it means that the people who listen to the material that we're putting out are getting something out of it. And the people who are contributing are helping me as well. And also they're a very loyal audience.
Yeah.
So that to me is quite important. And as someone who has been attacked in the past, not just on Twitter.
I was assaulted on Twitter.
yeah, that's right. I had death threats on Twitter. Then I find it all a bit offensive when they start thinking that they're in some way they're in danger from all this bullshit that they're spouting, because it's actually called counterintelligence. That's what counterintelligence is. And we were having a bit of a giggle about this alternative view thing. I think it's probably their worst lineup yet. We were looking at it before the show, and we were trying to find if they were all on Crime Stoppers, we were trying to give them a crime. I think we did pretty well, actually, didn't we?
I think so. Can you get the image up on the screen? I
don't know whether. No, I didn't put it in the thing. But, not to worry. Yeah,
but it is just for people who don't know what we're talking about. It's AV Alternative View 13, and it's run by Brian Gerrish, and he's got 6 guests here, and they look like a right motley crew.
There's one. He looks like a hitman.
Yeah,
it's the last on the right on the top row. He really does look like a hitman, doesn't he? He looks like a proper professional hitman. That guy.
Martin Lead. How do you? His surname spelled Lied. Lied.
Lied ticker. And he's got advanced technology in our hidden past. This advanced technology thing. It usually revolves around how did they get them massive rocks up there? Well, there's actually loads of ways they could have done it, and the Romans were doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not that difficult. But yeah, I like this when they're called advanced technology, but they don't actually tell you anything about technology. Have you noticed that? It's funny, that, isn't it? They never actually tell you anything about technology. But anyway, enough of them.
Can I just say one of the other speakers? Embrace the awakening. Embrace the cycle. The water bearer returns. That's David Dubine.
I did a talk with him, and he interviewed me, and then he wouldn't put it out, I don't think, because it might have affected his YouTube platform. You know, being controversial and an extremist in my views. You know,
well,
in actually describing what's going on.
Yeah. Well, this is your alternative view, isn't it? That's what they're scared of, an actual alternative view, it seems.
Yeah, there's no alternative. I mean, I remember the first couple of those, and Ian Crane got up and he started talking about himself for about 10 minutes, and then he gave himself an award, and then he told everyone he'd lost 10 pounds. And I thought, no, you've lost 10 pounds. You haven't lost 10 pounds, by the way, because you look as fat as you were before, but I've lost about 30 pounds by coming here. So I went to the bar and that was it. We just carried on regardless throughout the whole thing, you know.
Oh,
I mean, I've never learned anything from these people at these talks. Have you? Have you been to any?
I must say, there was a fellow, I don't think they've got anything to do with him now, called Graham Downing, who was good on vaccines. And I was looking him up during COVID. I can't find anything that he said in the last like 4 years. But yeah, Dr. Graham Downing is. I did like him.
No, there's some really good ones. We're not just throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. What we're doing is pointing out the barefaced, grifting chancers who have nothing to offer whatsoever.
Yeah,
and have wrestled their way into a circle by basically kissing people's arses, lying, and forming a little group of non-entities who don't achieve anything. So the whole point of this is constructive, but we're having a bit of a laugh. But I'm more interested as to why people are still following this garbage 20 years in. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's like I said about the news cycle, they're addicted to that. Also, the Hopium. I think there's people need a savior and a leader, just something to cling on to. It's like a religion. So they've got that. Can I just mention one other who may have come across your radar? A fella called Stu Peters. Do you know?
Oh, it was like Stu sells socks, wasn't it? Because it's like step on socks, they were called or something. So it's got to be one of the worst marketing ideas in modern history. Okay, so he was selling socks, and on the bottom of the sock is Obama's face or something, but no one can see it. So you're meant to be stepping on Obama's face or something. It was the worst marketing idea I think I'd ever come across. And he started off, and you think, he used to be a private detective or something. First couple of episodes, then that turned into an absolute griftathon, didn't it?
Yeah. The first time I ever saw him, he was presenting something that looked like the news. He was talking about the dangers of COVID vaccines, and then within 30 seconds to a minute, he was advertising something, and he just looked so slimy. Like instantly thought grifter, and everything I've seen from him since I think someone's got hold of him now, because he's now appeared as this great God-fearing Christian. He mentions God every.
That's the Christian grift, because they're not real Christians. Yeah, the Christian grift is massive, isn't it?
Well, maybe he's been sent there to sort of make patriots and Christians look terrible, which he does.
Well, it's all gatekeeping, isn't it? It's all collectivizing people into doing nothing. But yes, he made that documentary, and then he had that idiot talking about snake venom in the tap room. Do you remember that one?
That's hilarious. Yeah, and so many people who I know who should really know better were forwarding that. I said, "Can't you tell that's propaganda?" Right? Just listen, right? And then you got this wanky music in the background. That is such a real red flag giveaway that this has been produced as just propaganda and bullshit. But it's on the other side, and these people, they claim to be, I can see through the mainstream propaganda, and they can't see through the propaganda that's right in front of their eyes when it's that thick and that laid on. stupid.
Yeah, I've got
and that
incredibly
music.
bored with it.
Yeah,
But yes, it's incredible, and people still send me this garbage, and
yeah,
they say, "Oh, I listen to your show as well." Well, why do you listen to my show if you're listening to that? It's
yeah.
actually giving you brain damage. You might as well not listen to anything at all, because if you've got stuff that's solid, factual, edited down, and then you're listening to this circular nonsense. And these grifters who walk around talking about what's happening in Ukraine from a different country, filming themselves. I mean,
Oh,
that's another
you
one,
mean the
isn't it?
Duran guys? Yeah, from
Or the
Alex.
ex-military. Yeah, I'm ex-military. That just means you've been in the army and taken orders. It doesn't mean you know anything. Why would you
Yeah,
know anything if you've been in the military? You wouldn't, would you?
yeah. There's Scott. I have my doubts now, but I used to listen to Scott Ritter and Colonel McGregor, and I just think they are being paid to promote the Russian side of the narrative. I don't know who's paying them, but they're so.
Well, I think that
preposterous.
this is the thing, isn't it? They've split it up into pro and anti-Russian. So if you're not part of the sort of mainstream idiocracy, then you go on this pro-Russian side. But it's never as simple as that. And
Exactly.
of course, once they polarize it, it just becomes silly. I put Delingpole in the grift. Oh, definitely. I mean, I don't listen to these people because, to be honest, they just annoy me because they've got nothing to say. Nothing. They know nothing. They've got no knowledge. They've got no insight. They've not done any research. And I think you should do research. I mean, I always admired people like Eustace Mullins, who spent his whole life researching. People of that quality. Where are they now? Well, you could say Windows on the World, but
I think
just don't get it.
People like Delingpole. Like I saw a great comment in your Discord channel. Actually, he says that Delingpole's just put on his little armbands and he's gone up to. He's just sort of woken up. He's put on his armbands, jumped up to the top board, and then he's dived into so the shark
Conspiracy Circus,
and it's all sort of adrenochrome and gangrenous pedos lurking around Hillary's.
Oh, that's what he's on about now, is it? Because he used to do fairly sensible things about climate change, and he joined the Conspiracy Circus for life.
That's what I mean. Yeah, and his stuff on climate, good for him with the climate change. But now it's there's just a tendency, I think, with people who've woken up very recently. They go straight into all this, satanic blood drinking cannibals and child trafficking.
And I think that's a cover story. I think that's a cover story to take it into a position which is extreme that the public will not accept.
Yes.
So in other words, if you take this issue of child abuse and you call it satanic ritual abuse, you're taking it out of the belief system of the public, whereas the public will believe that children get abused. And we know who's responsible for that. And what was interesting was that Bill Maloney, who I knew was a compromised asset and agent from the start, it was perfectly obvious. He had to disappear because he got exposed, perverting the course of public justice in a video. Best thing Brian Harvey ever did was leave the video on when he was bullying Andrew Ash into really making false and baseless accusations about a lawyer to subvert a narrative that was going on. And I met that idiot several times. I even put a PA in for him. And he was ungrateful, full of himself. He had nothing to say, nothing. And his handler was laughing when I said, no, you're the one who was rude. I put a PA in for you. The battery went off. He only had about bloody 20 people there anyway. The battery went off the radio. Mike changed it within 20 seconds. Everyone could hear him. He goes, oh, you're the bloke who fucked up. No. I said, you were the one who was absolutely rude, full of himself, after I'd driven all the way to Gravesend to put in a PA in for you for nothing. Never again. I said, you're the one who's got the problem. And I said it right to his face. What a low life he was. Absolute low life.
Yeah,
he was
I remember being friends with, I don't know how this happened, but I was friends with Bill Maloney's sister on Facebook, and she used to go on about how he'd been abused and this. I
think the most thing is his audience were abused, right?
Yeah.
the most people that were abused were his audience. Yeah. Because he was abusing them. That was abuse, what he was doing.
Yeah.
Joining in with the mainstream narrative. diverting off the topic, which is an absolute intelligence thing to do. So he'd throw people off the scent and just talk about stuff that was in the news. He never covered anything. He covered the Holly Greig nonsense, which was promoted by We Know Who, which was another case, which was not a case.
Yeah.
Amongst many more. There's Melanie Shaw, wasn't there? There's been loads of them. You know, people promoted who shouldn't have been promoted because they might have had mental health problems. That's another thing. Push someone with mental health problems into the spotlight and watch them disintegrate and drag everyone else down with them. That's an old trick, isn't it? I wonder where someone we know learned that, you know.
Yeah, they're just associated with everyone good, aren't they? Ben Fellows, another one.
Oh, I remember him.
Or Zed Phoenix, as he called himself.
Oh, yes. He was working in a pub in Glastonbury last time I saw him. But he was at the so-called Bilderberg protest, which was actually funded by Goldman Sachs. How do I know that? Because Hertfordshire Police told me. I was talking to this cop. He said, it's a funny event, this. I said, why? He said, well, we're not getting paid by the local authority or the council. You know, it's all coming from Goldman Sachs.
Fucking hell.
It was paid for by... So Goldman Sachs hired the UK column to be there. They were the only ones allowed to stay in the field. And UK column had put out that Ben's gone missing. Ben's gone missing. Where was he? I wonder where he was. Because according to the police, he wasn't missing because he wasn't a missing person. But on the UK column website, it said, if you know where he is, tell us. Well, I could have told them where he was because he was in their tent. It's funny, that, isn't it? I wonder how that happened. Must have been a bit of an oversight or something, that one.
Yeah, they've got... it's a funny outfit, these those lads on the south coast. Yeah, you know.
Well, it's I mean, I've got the whole story behind it, but it's so bloody boring that I'd rather not waste my time. But this is a bit of fun, but in a way, it's quite serious, because everything I do is a serious side, because I'm giving people out information here that's absolutely true. Now, the point is that I can go head to head with any of these people because I know I've got the information, and that Plymouth outfit, I've got all of the information on what they were doing in the courts, the cases they ruined, the people's lives they've wrecked, the people who've been traumatized by being dropped at the last minute by subversive number one, you know, the organizer of the Crime Watch.
the ringleader,
the Crime Watch after party. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, we're not just doing this in some kind of petty, childish way, even though we're having a laugh.
It's like a public service announcement. There is a utility.
Absolutely a public service.
You've got to avoid these people if you want to stay sane and stay clear of the bullshit. Then take note of the names here. And that's just my opinion, but I have given these people a chance, as the fellow was asking. And if they're now getting a kick in the goodies, it's because I think they deserve.
So was Sun-Sea and Satan all lies then? Tell me, in that film, what he exposed? Nothing. He made lots of little comments about, oh, it's a satanic statue of Pan. He made some allegations. He never uncovered anything. He was the biggest liar that was ever put into the so-called conspiracy field. And he's disappeared now. Why do you think Maloney's disappeared? Because he was found out perverting the course of public justice on camera. Criminal offence, could have gone to prison. That's why you don't see him anymore. Quite simple.
I wonder where he'll turn up next.
I don't think he will, because he's blown it now.
Is that serious? Yeah.
He's blown it now. He was on camera bullying an abuse victim witness into saying that a particular lawyer had abused this witness. So he was bullying this fella to saying this lawyer had abused him, which was as subversive and illegal as you can get. That's perverting the course of public justice, and it was done as a witnessed interview with a journalist there. Yeah, it's as low as you can get. So he is the lowest of the low. That one, no doubt about it. And years ago, I didn't want to waste time talking about these people, but they've all screwed up things. They've left behind people who have been not just let down, but had their lives ruined. That's what we're talking about here with certain of these people, and one in particular. And I have all the information from the ex-staff of what they were up to. And if people can't see what counterintelligence is, they will be going round in this circle for the rest of their lives. Sonia Poulton, I think, is doing a good job. Okay, that's your opinion. That Mike has brain damage. Well, I don't know whether he's got brain damage or not.
Can I mention of one fellow who I think is quite amusing, and you can listen to him for hours, and you know it's not going to kill you to do it, but I think it's a bit of a grifter, and that's Cliff High. Do you know this one?
Oh, he's a bloody tedious bore, that man. No, I can see that. It's another form of bullshitting.
Right.
I mean, people send me those videos. I know why people listen. People love listening to that kind of waffle.
Yeah, they do. And I just think there's that sort of gets to your question earlier. Why do people listen to it? And it's kind of entertaining. It's a bit mystical. He claims his whole shtick is that he's got this computer system he's set up that monitors the internet chatter from every corner of the world, and he passes all this information, and he's looking at keywords, and from this he can predict stuff. And people, I think they like to believe that this is possible. So he makes all these predictions that never come true, and you can buy his reports for 99. But like I say, you can switch on one of his videos and listen to it for 40 minutes, and you think, oh yeah, he's quite interesting, nice guy. But he's been doing this for years. And if you just made a list of prediction, whether it came true or not, and then you'd stop listening if you did that. But that's right. There's all the new suckers coming in, I suppose.
Well, this was the big grift, wasn't it? The big grift was always there's more to come out on this.
Yeah,
there's more to come out on it. Well, actually, if you've got a good story, then you've got the body of it, haven't you? You don't keep saying, "Oh, there's more to come out on this," because the more to come out would be little details that add up to the body of evidence. But once you've presented your body of evidence, that's your story. I mean, some of the stuff we're going to get into over the next few weeks is so ludicrous and funny that it's made me laugh, but it's been aimed at me to try and derail me as well. But I still find it hilarious.
You see the funny side, yeah.
It is hilarious, isn't it? Especially the extreme ones. Yeah. So wait a minute. Someone's put, so you're saying QAnon isn't real? Have we mentioned them? No.
QAnon.
What are we talking about? Are you listening, or are you just here to mess about?
Yeah.
Donald Trump. What's he got to do with anything?
I think that had to be started. Is that the real Donald Trump?
QAnon isn't real. Oh yeah, QAnon isn't real. Well, exactly. Is 007 real? Well, it depends which one you like, I suppose. There's quite a few of them, aren't there?
Yeah. I don't imagine your audience are into white hats and QAnon and what else and Elon Musk. I shouldn't.
You were messing. Sorry, Jessica, because I read these as they go into. But believe it or not, Jessica, people would put that sort of thing in, and be serious about it. I mean, this is just a bit of fun in a way, but as I said, there's a very serious side to it, I mean, I think, where did all this nonsense start then? Because it got derailed off course, didn't it, quite a long time ago with things like Coast to Coast and George Norrie. So in other words, you'd get a little bit of information and then it'd all be, let's talk about the Nephilim for hours on end. And then that other thing, ancient technology came in, didn't it? Like, how did they move the rocks? And that we've actually always covered stuff that's really interesting, but people don't really want to hear it. It's like the global pictorial language that we actually released on this show as an exclusive. Hardly anyone watched that. Yet they'll watch this nonsense of people just making assumptions and just going round and round and not saying anything. And that's what I find puzzling about the whole thing now.
Yeah.
Even Mark Devlin has called out QAnon. Oh, I bet they're crapping their pants if he's bloody onto them, I bet the CIA are really taking a backward step there and going, God, he's got us there, hasn't he? Right. We found out what we did in Laurel Canyon as well. Oh dear. I mean, what are we going to do now? I suppose the Matt Hancock arrest wasn't real.
Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it? And that was that other idiot, Benicia. Oh, that's
Oh,
hilarious.
Michael Benissi. I don't know much
Yeah,
about
yeah,
him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was the one who was going to arrest Matt Hancock, wasn't he, by email?
Oh, he was in the film industry, wasn't he? So he's.
Have you seen any of his films?
No, I don't.
You may wish to retract that statement, Will. But
Yeah.
we'll leave it at that. But yeah, that was another one, because they were all going on about that, weren't they? And then there was a whole circuit of them talking about this imminent arrest of Matt Hancock. I mean, how daft do you have to be to believe that's going to happen with someone doing it from their bedroom?
Yeah.
It's arrest by email. That's right, of course. Well, that's how you arrest people these days, isn't it? Everything's online. Arrests are online, aren't they? So why not?
I thought it was all done with sealed indictments that are coming any day now, because Trump's the real Donald Trump, that is, who's still president. He's coming to lock up the pedos. And Hillary's already in Gitmo. She was executed, by the way, in 2018.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And the White Hats are in control. It's just that they're wearing masks and they're doing bad shit just to remind you how bad the Black Hats were. But it's okay, because Nassar is going to be released any time. And
we forgot about him, didn't we? The biggest con man in Marbella. You walk into the bar,
Charlie.
and there's that fat, bald idiot bragging to his mates, and he says, "Come over," and you think, "No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to walk to the next bar because I've heard it all before."
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
That's incredible, isn't it? That is incredible.
Yeah. He's sold a few timeshares. He was the one who made the money, though, doesn't he? I don't know anyone who's ever paid him a penny, but he does actually make it pay. I don't. But then think about Alex Jones. I mean, he 50 million a year. He has to be number one grifter.
He was, wasn't he? I mean, but Alex Jones is an actor. In a way, I don't mind him as much as these other grifters, because he is an actor. Right?
Yeah.
It's theatre what he's doing, and he knows it's theatre.
Yeah.
And I think earlier on they did put some stuff out, but we know who's funding the whole thing. It's quite clear what funds that. I mean, originally he was on RBN network, which I actually joined, and the fella from RBN, John, I think he's died now, but he was originally on that in Texas. And yes, he had to pay all that money about Sandy Hook. Now that was interesting. That is interesting, because even if you think you're under the wing of those who we cannot speak, there's certain things you cannot say.
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
Still, he's not going to pay $1 billion, is he, or whatever it was? But he's absolutely loaded, selling his little supplements and penis pills or whatever it is he flogged in
the survival food, like if there's Armageddon, would you really want to live off that? I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some shops open. You wouldn't live off that dried crap, would you? I mean, I'm going to live underground. There's lots of people who are thinking like that, wasn't there? I know a few of them. You're looking, there's a room that they've got and it's full of this dried crap. You think, what are you paying all that for? It's that other one, this Brighteon. That's another
the Health Ranger. No, his health advice. He's actually
it used to be good. It used to be really good. Yeah.
Controlled. I mean, he pushes the right-left bullshit. That's his shtick, to keep you still believing we have a democracy and whatnot.
Someone's put a most idiotic comment. It says, "Trust nobody." I think it's the most idiotic comment of the whole show, right? But I have to make an example of it because it's so bloody ridiculous.
Trust nobody. Two-word comment.
Yeah. Trust nobody, then you have no need to wonder who is fake or not. Talk about missing the point. You just wonder sometimes what is wrong with people. We're not talking about trusting anybody. We're talking about people who are going round in circles, going nowhere, and not giving you information. What's trust got to do with it? Nothing. Something's either true or it isn't. If you can't research it for yourself, then maybe you should listen to our friend in Marbella, our timeshare friend, with his new age witches on there. And his IKEA picture in the background. That picture he's got is from IKEA, you know that. Yeah. And of course, he brought the King of England to many people's attention, didn't he?
Oh, they had a little tete-a-tete. Oh, brilliant. I'd pay good
money.
Well,
I think the King of England has fallen out with everybody, you see, because after a while, everyone becomes an agent. So he stayed on my sofa for 6 to 9 months. I lent him my van on the promise that he would give it me back. He gave me a 500 deposit on it. And then he accused me of trying to kill him in an unsafe vehicle that I'd obviously rigged to kill him, you know. I mean, the Hidden King of England has probably had more assassination attempts than James Bond.
Yeah.
But he survives them all as well. It's incredible, that, isn't it?
This is just what happens to Prince Charles. Like, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, he goes through it all the time, doesn't he? Yeah.
So,
have you got anyone else on your list?
There's a fella, I don't actually know much about him, but he's called Phil Godlewski, and he's made loads of money out of just grifting people. But I don't really have any more to say on him other than that. Yeah, he's a wrong and sex pest. Sasha Stone.
Maybe he should be at one of these conferences then.
Yeah,
you know, of the Crime Stoppers Most Wanted of the conspiracy world. You know.
Yeah, he can play the part of I think we had a couple of those, didn't we? And I'm looking at there's a fellow who used to do good work. I think he's called Sean from the SGT report, and now it's all just Hillary's basement. What goes on there? All the stuff that you don't have to prove. Yeah, all the stuff that doesn't affect people's everyday lives that people can speculate on. And talk about. Sort of, a bit like Epstein's Island, you know, keep going on about that. Yeah. Or the VARS report. I get all these stuff. This is slightly off subject, but I keep getting these emails. The VARS report says this. Well, if people don't know that it was a scam by now, they're going to be talking about it as if it's like the 9/11 thing. Was it nanothermite or mini nukes? You know, I mean, this is what the academics get into then, isn't it? So they miss the point. No, who did it and why is the main point. In fact, I saw a brilliant 2-minute clip yesterday of a fella. He had a slightly foreign accent, but he says, look, you don't need to go into details now. He says, if there's something that is just appeared and it's a global crisis, and what you need is global solutions, then it's a scam. You don't have to start looking at the details. He says, if these solutions are always the centralization of further power and the reduction of national sovereignty, then it is a scam. And period, end of story, always. And you can get lost in the weeds. Yeah, just going into details. Once you've proven it. I mean, I found this when I wrote my book on COVID. It's like I'm just writing stuff that everyone knows now. And if I didn't prove it in the first 50 pages, it's you know, I've done that. I kind of made that mistake.
Yes. Yes, I think it's the editing. So she's putting now this was, but surely trust is important. We're not talking about that. Again, you're going back to the point that was missed in the first place. We're not talking about trust. If you trust information, it's because the source is trustworthy. So anyone who goes to my website can see the sources and it is trustworthy. But what we're talking about here is people who are just there for the circus. Yeah. They're there because it's a way of gaining a following and making some money, which is not what this was to start with, because there were some really good people on it. And that's what really is the most irritating thing about it, if there's anything irritating about it anymore, is that it's been going on for 20 years and these clowns are achieving nothing and they're getting worse. That's the problem. They're getting worse. So it's not getting better. And having said that, I think we should now bring in the ultimate in barefaced bullshit. I bet you can't guess who it is, can you?
What? Not Greg, not Mr. Hallett?
No.
You're saving him.
Greg is the king of conspiracy comedy, because what he actually says is funny. I'm talking about somebody else. You're not going to get it, are you, Will?
No.
Parksy.
Simon
Parksy.
Yeah, that's always you can mention him in the same breath as Charlie Ward. Definitely, that's That's
well, they're the sort who would sort of kind of mutually slide off each other, you know. With, literally, probably.
That's the kind of thing. It'll tell you that something like, is it Steve Bannon and Mel Gibson are flying to Mars to save the children?
Yeah, they're freeing them all from the underground tunnels.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Parksy, yeah.
Parksy was in that Confessions of an Alien Abductee, wasn't he? He said his mother was a giant praying mantis. Well, I think we can all relate to that at some point in our early childhood. But to carry it on is a bit silly, especially if you're a driving instructor who's a local councillor. And what he actually did was really despicable to someone I know very well, and someone else. He calls himself M Seeker of Truth. He put out these emails that I had years ago from a lady called Marie, and what he did to her was evil. So there's a nasty side to these people as well. I've got the emails, so I never say anything I can't back up, and I never say anything that isn't true. So we're talking about the grifter circus, really, the griftocracy of what's taken over. Yeah,
I like that. Big.
I think it's also about how much they. Sorry.
So just whoever coined that word, well done for that.
Absolutely.
Big fan of that.
I think there's a big difference between people like Tommy Robinson, someone's put him in, and the people we're talking about, because at least he did that panodrama and exposed something. We know that he's an asset, okay, but he actually did something. We're talking about people who do nothing, you know. They sit in front of computers and talk bollocks and try and make money out of it. That's what we're talking about. And I think it's about time someone mentioned it, you know. And I'm usually the first in if there's something to say.
Yeah. So Brian Rose, Charlie Ward, and Parksy are the three. Yeah. You think they're the three kings of grift this year?
That is the triumvirate of the griftocracy circus.
Yeah.
The grift. Yeah.
The gold, silver.
It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
Apart from King Greg, of course. But he is the king of conspiracy comedy. So that's slightly different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, at least he's a bit original. Give him some due for
Well, the thing I like about Haller is that he will openly say the most outrageous things in a room full of people who aren't expecting it. I remember once he turned up at the 9/11 Keep Talking group because he'd written a book called Hitler Was a British Agent. So they were expecting to hear all this stuff about Hitler going to Liverpool. Instead, he started talking about the many unsuccessful assassination attempts, including one where it was actually the cure for food poisoning. So he got that wrong. But he said, they put ipecac on my steering wheel. And I went into the third tree on the left. The first tree was where Rufus Youngblood was killed. And then I started shitting myself and vomiting. What the hell has this got to do with Hitler? Because he always has to bring kind of, you know,
bodily fluids.
Bodily fluids and really extreme sex things but for no reason, you know, like Hillary Clinton, what he said about Hillary Clinton. And by this time, people were walking out. And that's why I think it's funny, because that sort of extremity to me is funny. Going over the top to that degree. But we're talking about people who are just grifting in the middle, not people who go over the top, who are genuinely unhinged. I mean, the genuinely unhinged have an excuse. We're talking about people who don't have an excuse. Well, it's quite funny that we're getting a few in here. Yeah, the Botox Banshee. Yeah. Well, this is a bit of a diversion from my usual stuff, you know, because everything we put out is information, and it's useful, like the protocols of power. All this stuff is relayed to the public for a very good reason. It's relayed to the public because it's a lifelong learning project, which is mutual. In other words, people are becoming part of the show, and we've exposed the whole of the way things are working on this show over the years. I don't think there's any other show in the UK that's done it, because they all have to distract into nonsense. And I think that's the trick, because when you first start getting into this, you want to go into all these different areas. But unless you have an overview and have done a lot of research putting it together, you just become part of the griftathon. Waste of time.
Yeah, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. And I see that with people who are only just, woken up. They've worked out they've been lied to, and read a couple of articles, and it's probably best that they didn't.
I think the problem is that they set up all these platforms, and I've seen it over the years, and these people just get involved and they have nothing to say. So the whole it's not just watered down, and it does, as I said, it doesn't matter about the counterintelligence anymore, because what they're doing is counterintelligence, because they're putting in loads of stuff that isn't true or doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And if it's not true and doesn't matter, it's a waste of time.
Where would you have? I once heard you say, I'll try and remember the quote about Russell Brand. A controlled opposition, a useful idiot, or just a wrong 'un, and Brand was all three. It was something like that.
Oh yeah, he'd come up top with all three of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, just for the benefit of other people, because I if you ever go on YouTube, which isn't a great idea, but they kind of steer you towards Russell Brand's videos. I don't want to watch that shit. And
it's like terrible when they do
wants
that.
me to watch it, and he just tells you about, look at the Great Reset, it's really bad, man. And it's like, yeah, we know all that. And I feel a bit sorry for him in a way. He's just got to tell other people who are completely asleep what we already knew a year ago. It must be quite dull and boring for him. But
I think Brand's quite a dark character, and he's basically a useful asset, because he's keeping them where the powers that be want them. Bit of new age nonsense, self-help, masquerading, of course, as narcissism as usual, and
also
just talking about he's got no insight into any of what's going on. So it's a waste of time. But when people say, "Oh, I'll listen to you and him," I said, "Well, don't listen to me then. You're wasting your bloody time."
Choose your side. Choose your side.
Choose your side. Someone's putting Piers Corbyn. Choose your side. That's right. Yeah, choose your side. Oh dear.
I went on one of those marches. Not marches. It was like sort of a protest during COVID, and someone who I suspect was like an agent provocateur thrown a load of yogurt over the Apple storefront, so it's covered, and then by the time we got there, literally every square yard had a copper in front of it, and all these, again, they could have been people just there to stir up trouble and make the protesters look bad. They were all sort of screaming at the police, choose your side, choose your side. It's like, well, they already have, mate. They're stood outside protecting the Apple store, and they're not on your side. So
I think people kind of fell for all those COVID protests, which got collectivized into holding boards up and doing nothing. See, I'm only interested in things that work. If you kept getting herded into these situations that don't go anywhere, are you actually learning from it? That's the question. Because once you've been herded once, you should know and not get herded again.
Yeah. And I guess that's getting back to Russell Brand. That's what he's doing. He's herding people, like you say, where the powers that be want them. You keep looking at Klaus Schwab and the funny man.
Klaus Schwab is neither here nor there. I mean, once you've read the book, the reset stuff, and you've seen him, you know that he's there as a distraction, because it doesn't matter what Klaus Schwab's doing. You know what matters? Those people in your local council, because they're the ones who are enforcing it on you, not Schwab.
Yeah.
And that's what I've said. And that's what we've been doing when I was last in the UK. Saying, get yourself in as local councillors, start disrupting that at a local level, and taking back your real power, not giving it away to these wafflers on the internet who will not give you any decent advice and who know absolutely nothing of how the system works.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm into that.
Definitely. Well, I think we've had quite a good chat. We've been on about an hour now. This was going to be a bit of a kind of primer for these specialized shows on the conspiracy hoaxes, because that's where the comedy starts, folks.
Yeah.
Because I do have massive information on the two biggest conspiracy hoaxes ever known. Because guess what? Muggins here started looking into them. And Muggins here got to know them. And Muggins here got attacked by the people who follow these grifters when I said, don't believe, if you believe that, you'll believe anything, you know. And then, of course, you're negative. And I've had a lot of that over the years. When you actually uncover something that's real, people actually hate you for it, don't they? You know, they do hate you for it. And so all sides hate you for it if you tell the truth. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's incredible. But these platforms basically are going nowhere. The shows that I put out, and I'm doing this show for a very good reason, are focused, they are useful, they will help you, and they have information. And that information comes back from the people who listen to the show. So in other words, it's a meeting of the minds. And from that, you get to put a picture together which is reliable, accurate, and useful in the respect that you can start integrating yourself properly with the knowledge and acting accordingly, rather than going along like a sheep. And that's what this show's really been about. Have you got anything to add, Will?
No, not really. Just like you were saying to the person in the comments earlier, it's not about trusting people. You don't trust people. That's not what it's about. And probably something I've learned from about the last 6-8 months is clicking fewer links has probably done me a lot of good. Actually, it's I'm just finding that, because a lot of it was time wasting. Much of it is. And if you're listening to people who are telling you what you already know, it might be nice that they're sort of reinforcing it, but it's probably, if it's not new, if it's not new information, it's probably a waste of time.
Yeah, if it's not of any use, if there's no wisdom, insight, knowledge, or practical use to it, then it is a waste of time. It's like these people going on about history endlessly. Well, that's okay, but you've got to draw conclusions and you've got to apply it to what's going on now, because we haven't got time for all this stuff. I mean, I love looking at ancient history, but even the Shattered Isle stuff is relating to a part of history that's been covered up and why that history was covered up. And it ties in with the rest of the stuff we're doing. So it's all kind of linked. So I think carefully about the stuff I put out. And often that's hard, because I try and put something very useful and different out every Sunday, which is very different from just getting on and getting your mates on, which is what the Conspiracy Circus does. They get their mates on and talk bollocks for an hour. Or 2 hours, or sometimes 3 hours.
Yeah, well, think of Jordan Peterson. Like, I mean,
he's got to be you had to bring. You wouldn't let it lie, would you? You wouldn't let it lie. Clean your room. Go and clean your room now, Will. That's below the belt.
Sorry about that. Yeah. I suppose he's a grifter. He makes tens of millions.
He has got nothing to say. Yeah. He knows nothing, has nothing to say. He's a gatekeeper for all the people who are basically putting him up there as a smokescreen. He's a neurotic, whining, whinging nobody with nothing to say. And he's got his bad points.
Yeah.
Someone just put in Piers Corbyn. Now, Piers Corbyn is not controlled opposition. Piers is uncontrolled opposition, right? Because he is the most chaotic person I think I've ever met. And people calling him a shill and all that is ridiculous. A lot of this stuff he does is ill-advised, in my opinion. But a lot of the stuff he used to do was very good. And he had a good crowd of people around him. Now, Piers is a professional activist in the true sense. And yes, in a way, he has got his hand out for the money and all that. But I don't think that he's the sort of grifter we're talking about. Piers is actually somebody who's always done what he's done. So even when he's being derided and no one's following him, he still does it. So he's got some integrity to what he's doing in that respect, you know. But no, he's not controlled opposition. He is absolutely uncontrolled opposition. If you've ever worked with Piers, you'll know he is the most uncontrolled opposition out there, because you can be waiting 5 hours for him to turn up. And when he turns up, he'll ask for a cup of tea. And you still can't dislike him for it. Piers is just a good-hearted, he, in a way, we've all got our little foibles, you know, and I'm quite aware what mine are now. But the point is that you work on that and you try and put out the best you can, you know, and that's really what this show's all about. And I appreciate the people who appreciate it. And the only reason I do it is because of the people who listen to it. I'm not here to become a celebrity and all the rest of it. Could have done that years ago, not interested. I want to be able to sit back, take in the knowledge, and it's a lifelong learning project which I'm sharing with the public, which I do honestly think has had big effect and can change things. And that's just fact, because if you look back at my website and the stuff I've been through, it's quite astonishing, even to me, because when these people talk about controlled opposition and you get people like rising up, this Lance Murdoch who turned up about COVID time and then calls me a shill. And then I actually said, have you got any evidence to back up your defamation? And then he just runs off like the cowardly nobody that he is. Those are the people who I do have a problem with, because anybody who undermines other people when it's not true, well, we know what that's called. That's called defamation. Everything we've said tonight is pretty true. We're just talking about people who are shameless grifters. And I don't think there's anything else we can add to that, is there, Will?
No, apart from keep on winning and make Charlie Ward great again. That's what I reckon.
Make Charlie Ward great again. Actually, we should start a campaign, because he'd go, what do you mean great again? I was great in the first place.
Yeah. $49.99 to fatcharlie.com. Keep the donations coming. Yeah. See the
oh, and he has his children on it as well at the beginning. Oh, and he pretends to be a Christian and all that. Oh, he's a despicable.
Oh, that's like Stu Peters, the big Christian, and then he just spews hate and bile every 5 seconds. Yeah. He's such a shit actor. Yes. Yeah. Excuse my language.
Eric Von Essex had Jerry Marzinski on his show. Good. Glad to hear that. More people need to talk to Jerry, because Jerry is one of the most original people out there. And what he's doing is work on a very deep level. And that's why I do quite a lot of stuff with Jerry, because he helped me. And also, I had the same information for years that he was talking about. I'd seen it, I'd experienced it. And when I got together talking to Jerry, it all clicked. And of course, that's what it's about. Mark is the only bloke I've found that gives comprehensive explanations of the Westminster system. Thank you very much, Jethro. Now, the thing is that the shows we've put out over the years, I'm pretty pleased with all of it. You know, with these grifters, none of their stuff will mean anything in the future. But the archive at Windows in the World will be there, if it is still there, and people can still learn from that, because it's not time sensitive. And it's all useful information, and it describes the system we're in, and it really does empower you. That's the whole point of doing it. There's no point doing it otherwise. It's a waste of time. And I think that's why we're doing this tonight, because I can't believe that people are still wasting their time. We ain't got time to waste, have we, really?
No. Nope.
That's great. So, yeah, I think we have a bit of a laugh there. We're going to be doing 2 follow-up shows to this. The Hidden King of England, because I was actually the reporter on the whole thing, because the original story was very interesting. It was about this fellow in Portugal, and his story added up. Whether it was true or not, I don't know. But strange things happened over there. And then, of course, Greg decides that he's not getting enough attention. So he decides that the fellow with the original story has gone temporarily insane, which of course means that Greg's the King of England. Makes sense, doesn't it?
It's total logic, yeah.
Well, it's just, it's the obvious leap, isn't it? If he's gone mad, who's going to take his job? There's only me, and I'm the Lord Chancellor already. Well, it's got to be me, hasn't it? Because my name's Joseph Gregory Hallett, and obviously that makes me King John III, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was looking at one of the YouTube videos you sent me on Hallett, and about half the comments were, "Oh, this is really good to know, and it's great that our rightful king's been restored." And it's like, you lot have got to get back to your padded cells. I mean, this is just...
I couldn't believe that anyone believed it. I mean, the thing is, this is a good point, though, because a lot of people miss the point with Hallett. He's bloody hilarious. But it's very destructive. to a lot of people, especially the people who give him money. But it's absolutely hilarious because it's so over the top, because he's in a different league. This is on a level of insanity that these grifters cannot even get anywhere near.
You couldn't make it up, literally.
No, they couldn't make it up, and he does.
They don't have the talent. No, it's
no, they haven't. They haven't got the quick-witted ability of the superlative con man that he's got. Because not only will he make something up, but he'll put a time and a date on it, and then he'll be on to the next subject before you know it. So you think, actually, you think maybe that was true. He had a time and a date and everything. And then you read the book, and then you find out it would have been more useful actually for him to write all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy 50 million times, just like The Shining, you know. It would have done less damage to people's brains, probably, you know. That's funny. Yeah, no, there's a lot of people that I used to sort of associate with, which I don't, and most of them have gone off, to be honest. The Piers I do like. I think Piers is very entertaining, good value, and he's kind of, he'll always be doing what he's doing. But I think the information is the key, and the grifting is something that people should start knocking on the head. Yes, I know people hang around with these grifters because actually, when it comes down to it, you have little insights into people and you go, yeah, I think I know what the score is there. Yeah. John Hamer was the only flat earther I thought was reasonable. Is that like what they call an oxymoron?
Reasonable flat earther. Yeah.
I've never met one of them, have you?
What, an actual flat earther or a reasonable flat earther? Because I've met a couple now. Yeah.
I've always found them quite unreasonable, actually.
This one particularly, he's a hilarious bloke. Absolutely. I did some work with him, and he really, I was working like for 3 days, every minute of the day, and he had me in stitches. And genuine flat earther. I mean, that's his little foible, but lovely lad. Like, really, you know.
It's okay if it's a passing phase, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then it becomes this thing that gets filled with hatred. It's like I put up a show the other day, and it's got the circle that looks like the Earth on it. But that doesn't mean it's not flat, does it? Because they think the Earth is a flat disc, don't they? Or do they think it's a square or something?
I think they think it's a disc. There's a passage to Antarctica.
Yes, yeah. But that's I'll do a show about something really interesting, like comets and meteors hitting the Earth and real impacts, which I did on Sunday, like the Coon Butte impact, which is a mile long, and this place in Central America where a whole population of these ancient civilization were wiped out by a meteor comet, and someone will put on, and you've still got that globe in the background. And it's just like that is something else when they do that. Yeah. That was a great show. That's life, but not. Thank you, Will. Will's one of the real genuine people out there, and we did a show last week. Will Henderson, and he's been in touch for ages. We did a show, and Will had so many internet problems that I ended up doing his show myself, basically, and we came back in, and it was great actually. But we did get really good stuff in there, and I like people who are humble, who are interested in the knowledge. We're just talking about these shameless, bloody charlatans here, which I think it's been going on for quite long enough, and we're trying to nip it in the bud a bit, aren't we? That's all.
Yeah. Don't know how much success we'll have there. I think it's a growth industry still. So, not optimistic that we'll have any effect. But, we'll just sit here sniping and sticking the boot in because I think they deserve it. Yeah?
Well, that's funny. Comets don't exist. Ball Earth isn't settled science, is it? Oh, here we go. We're getting off the subject here now. Of course, we're getting once you mention flat Earth, a whole kind of ton of angst comes out, and it's got nothing to it. So the flat Earth thing is counterintelligence because it always takes you off the subject, doesn't it? That you're talking about. So you're talking, and comets aren't real. Okay, yeah, well, fair enough. But I mean, nothing's real, is it? Because everything could be exactly what you want it to be in the new grifter.
Yeah, there's no such thing as gravity. The Earth is flat and space doesn't exist. How could I have been so blind for so long?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think that's the thing. The flat Earth is a psychological operation. There is no doubt about that, because it was even used by Obama. Sorry, man, you probably think the Earth's flat. Remember that? He introduced it, didn't he? Obama introduced that.
Yeah. It's weird when you get these flat Earth so-called proof videos on YouTube. There's like 5,000 comments all agreeing with it. And if you were to look through that, you'd think like half the people believe in this nonsense. But you'll meet one or two in real life. And so there's obviously a load of people sat in a basement somewhere just churning out these comments, or an AI for all I know. But
well, that's another thing. Those kind of news stories now, the ones written by AI, they repeat themselves and then they go on and on and on and on. So AI just can't edit, basically. It's just nonsense when you read it, isn't it?
Yeah. I had a little go on that Chat GPT, and it was woeful, awful. Like just.
It's such a distraction, and it's basically taken us to the end of civilization where nobody knows anything, and there's no history, there's no nothing. And that's what we're trying to kind of change, really, because the whole point is to leave something behind and achieve things. And you don't achieve things by just following a circular nonsense. But yeah, that's true. The moon landings. Actually, what I do like Bart Sibrel. He's very good, isn't he? Bart Sibrel, because he sticks to the moon landings. You know him?
Not familiar with him. No,
he made a film called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, and he's the one who
tried
to make he tried to make Buzz Aldrin and these astronauts swear on the Bible, and Buzz Aldrin.
Did he chin him?
That's right, because he said you're a liar, you're a fraud, and you never went to the moon. And he hits him, and the other one kicks him, doesn't he? One of them kicks him, and the other ones. They won't swear on the Bible that they went to the moon and all that. That's great. He's very good, and he sticks to his guns. You know, people who stick to the guns are great.
Yeah, it's like you say. At least they've got integrity. You know,
absolutely.
It counts for something in this world.
I think we should wrap it up now because someone just mentioned Max Egan, and that's going to make me fall asleep. How could we have missed that one? You know,
that's a showstopper, literally.
Well, it's a showstopper in that. That's just like, what else can you say? It's like that's the end of the line when you start bringing that up.
I can't believe I've got a little piece of paper here and his name's not on it. But
no, I was trying to forget about it. You know,
well gutted, yeah.
Oh God, he's been waffling on for years. I mean, that is pointless. That is pointless. He doesn't know anything about anything. No knowledge, no insight, no wisdom, and no solutions. Just whinging on. Oh, I can't stand it. Yeah. There's a whole load of them, wasn't there? Poor old Ken O'Keefe as well, because he ended up in a bad way, didn't he? Yeah. But actually, I preferred him because at least he could like put something into it, you know, even though he was
smackhead, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, he's probably troubled, but that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, people who've got problems, we don't want to be attacking people with problems. We just want to be attacking people who are the problem.
The ones with a bit of malice. Yeah, but
well, yes, the ones who are deliberately doing it as well, and who selectively choose not to take advice when something is true because it might upset the grifter circus, and that is my problem with them. That they will cover over things which may be uncomfortable. So they do exactly what the mainstream does.
Yeah.
They do exactly the same thing.
They kind of cover for one another by saying, come on, man, you can't be slagging off people in the alt media community. We're all on the same side here, so let's not hear any bad mouthing. And what they're saying is, don't attack me. This is like Fauci saying an attack on me is attack on.
It's like saying don't start looking into us because you're going to find out.
Yeah. That's a massive red flag, just right there. And a lot
Jordan Maxwell. Well, everybody out there, this is serious stuff, and you'd better do your homework. Yeah, I mean, I used to listen. He's gone now, hasn't he? But I used to listen to that for hours, and you think, what if you learn nothing? You know, it's kind of just a load of word salad put together. Really, there's a lot of them do that, don't they? I mean, I suppose some of it was quite interesting, but once you've heard it once and realised that it doesn't mean anything, well, what are you going to do with it? You know?
Yeah. I used to enjoy listening to Alan. Is it Alan Watts or Alan Watts?
Alan Watt. He was brilliant.
Yeah,
he's one of the best. Yes. Yeah. Maybe we should do a show on the best people.
Yeah.
That would be good, wouldn't it?
Because you're so negative. Why don't you do something positive? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are you doing? Well, look at my website. I've got an absolute right to say what I'm saying because it's true. Yeah. Look at my website. Look how far it goes back. I was doing this in 2005. And that's the thing. I haven't got millions of idiots listening to me because this show was genuinely shut down and it's not part of the Griftathon. Alan Watt was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder because I'm, compared to you, I'm right new to this, and I started looking into alternative media probably 2014, 15.
Oh, right.
And now I'm getting jaded with all the bollocks. So how you must just be sick of it because you walk the, you did all the protests, the Occupy stuff, and you've seen the infiltration close up, and these Johnny come latelys just you must roll your eyes, man.
Well, it's so tedious. You're talking about something which is absolutely simple, which they will not talk about. I don't get it. I mean, once they talk about shills and infiltration, but they are the shills and infiltration. They don't need any. You see, that was the thing they did years ago. And there was a lot of disruption going on, but they don't need to do that now because their project is complete. It's like pot will eat itself.
Yeah.
The alternative thing is chased its own tail. It's going round in a circle, going nowhere, and it never derails off its course. It's going nowhere.
Yeah.
I can't listen to Rise Above. He's an arsehole, that Lance. I called him up on that. He called me a shill. That was it. No one does that. No one gets away with that. He ran up, made a fool of himself on a friend's, well, not on Facebook anymore, but yeah, another chancer, another idiot, knows nothing. And then he starts throwing accusations around and defaming people. Sorry, you don't do that. You're a nobody.
That's Lance who?
Murder, he's called, yeah. Oh, okay. He's called Rise Above, and he sits there with his big podcasting mic in his little studio that's meant to like little nightclub type studio. Oh, Devlin has him on and calls him like the best show in the UK. And if Devlin is recommending anybody, you shouldn't be listening to him, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Rise Above.
That's the arsehole. Oh, he's an arsehole. Yeah. Well, he knows he's an arsehole now because he got found out. I take defamation very seriously because I'm serious about what I do. So these little arseholes who do come in throwing accusations around about people like me, I will go for them, relentlessly. But always with good humour, Yes. Well, you have to take defamation seriously, don't you? Yeah. Oh yeah, he's a wanker. He's a complete wanker. Well, it's all new age nonsense, isn't it? And then he tries to make out that he's some kind of activist. Oh, that's the worst of the worst. I think actually Devlin is mildly better than him, actually. Right. If that's possible.
His idea of activism.
That's it, yeah. Right. So that's the bottom. That's rock bottom. Rise Above, it's ironically rock bottom. Yeah. and I think we've got the triumvirate, just to kind of remind everybody. We've got Rose. Charlie, we've got Rosie Boy, and we've got Parksy.
Yeah.
So Ward, Parks, and Rose.
Yeah.
Sound like a firm of solicitors, don't they? Ward, Parks, and Rose.
Imagine that.
Imagine getting them to represent you in court.
Yeah. Pay your bill on time.
Under common law.
Yeah.
And getting the judge to sign it off, sign off the court bond with a Jazara payment. Yeah.
It's going live anytime, any day this week. In fact, I saw one grifter.
Oh, that's another thing about the arsehole. Yeah, he smokes joints live. Anyone who does that is an uber arsehole. Anybody who smokes joints live is showing you that they don't give a damn about you.
Yeah.
Or anything else.
Elon Musk did that on Joe Rogan, didn't he?
Well, he's an actor. He's just an actor. He's a bloody front man, isn't he? Rogan, another waste of space. Why would you listen to it? I don't even get why anyone listens to it.
Yeah.
There's nothing on there, is there? Is there anything
He's
on
got
there?
nothing to say. I mean, he presents the UFC, and whenever someone gets knocked out, he just goes, wow, wow. I mean, who would have thought someone getting knocked out in a fight? And he says the same thing every single time, as if it's the most, like he's just discovered fire. Wow.
Oh, Rose, I mean, I love the Rose versus whoever boxing match, because he hired the O2 or something, didn't he? And he was like, as we were saying, like 30 days to go. Oh, bloody hell, I better get me ticket, you know, if it's 30 days to go. And then it's like, it just dribbled off, didn't it? Because nobody obviously wanted to see it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what all con men do, grifters. They just, if something completely falls on its arse, it never existed, and they just move on to the other thing, and it's never mentioned, is it, again?
Yeah, straight on to the next grift.
Joe Rogan, Hogan. Actually, Hulk Hogan, he'd be good, wouldn't he? He's dead, though, isn't he? Hulk Hogan.
Is he alive? Yeah.
Who's that other one? Jesse Ventura. Well, Alex, I'm down in Mexico, Alex. You know, oh, God, he's a clown, isn't he, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, mind you, yeah.
There's so many. There must have been more we've forgotten, you know.
There's loads. There's absolutely loads. It's just that you're trying to blank it out of your mind most of the time, aren't you? However, I think that was fun, you know.
Yeah.
And all this is a primer, yeah? It's a primer for what's coming, because what's coming is going to be, I guarantee you will be laughing your socks off out there, okay?
You must get some of the video of Greg going into the countryside with the digger to dig up the stone.
Maybe we should have a few clips.
Yeah, a few.
I think that's his finest moment.
What's Greg doing here?
Well, I found the real location of Jacob's pillow. That is the worst best I've ever seen. That is him at his inspired best.
Yeah.
Ruining a beauty spot with a JCB, going down 9 meters and bringing up a bit of rock. And then getting the tape measure. It's like Vic Reeves when, you know, when they used to measure something and it's completely off, like it's like 3 inches. They go, there you go, 9 inches.
That's it.
At the end, doesn't it? It's the exact dimensions of Jacob's pillow. So he's got someone to put it in the back. They've got the massive bloody bit of stone, you know, rock that he's found. And he's going to say, we've got to take it back to London. Imagine being the idiot who'd driven him down there, or imagine being the useful idiot who dug the bloody hole, you know, and got done for it probably.
Yeah, well, I did notice it was in a kind of circle of trees, so you could see it perfectly from the drone footage, but none of the locals would have been able to see what was going on there because it had probably got stopped and nicked
until it was too late. There's loads on him. And I've been witness to it because I thought it was one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen. You know, and then, as I say, it's Fetzer enabled it all, and then. There's a BitChute video where Haller is saying, and this agent called Mark Windows tried to kill me with a van he sold me, right? Which I asked him to bring back, by the way, you know, because I'd just got an out. And then he said I'd fake the MOT. And then he said, and he stole a hard drive. No, he didn't. He left the hard drive at my house and asked me to bloody keep it, you know. But this is the way things change in the conspiracy world, obviously.
Yeah, when you're the king of conspiracy hoax, you know, it's all very fluid.
Somebody gave him $100,000, you know.
That's his genius, then. He is a genius. I couldn't get anyone to give me $100,000 by bullshitting. Like, I don't know. So, yeah, he's obviously the better man.
Richie's great because he does what he says on the tin. He's about the only genuine one out there, apart from me. Well, okay, we can both say that, but there are other people. But there's not many in the UK, is there? There's not many.
No.
I can't think of any. Apart from Will was on the other night, Will Henderson. There's a few people, like, you know. But,
you meant me for a moment.
Well, you're obviously part of the inner circle of the anti-conspiracy circus club, aren't you? Yeah.
The anti-conspiracy circus.
Yeah. Thomas Sheridan. Oh, he's in the Most Wanted at the AV conference.
Yeah, he's at AV 13. Let's find out. I'll just read off what he's going to do. The psychic defense from the black magic of the gaslighting consensus M-A-G-I, magic.
Magi. So he's trying to make it sound like a sort of Kabbalistic, mystical thing. Why don't he just say the mainstream media are talking crap?
Yeah.
How do you protect yourself against that? Well, you turn it off, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it, Mr. Expert on narcissism and psychopathy.
Have you seen David Martin's interview with Alex Zek?
David Martin? Do you mean like the baldy bow tie guy? Dr. David Martin, is that?
I think I watched something with him in once and I wasn't convinced with it, if it's the same one.
The COVID guy. Yeah, I'm aware of this Dr. David Martin. He was in Plandemic.
Oh, yeah. What happened to that really good doctor, Heiko Schonning? Because he was shut down. They let all the conspiracy circus ramble on at the Trafalgar Square protest. But when Heiko Schonning, the man who looked credible, got up, he was immediately arrested, wasn't he? Do you remember that?
German fellow.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Botox banshee had been allowed to scream her tits off all day.
Oh, God. And then, if you give her a mic, I have to actually walk up round the nearest corner to put some...
Well, she's got no technique, you see. She could never be a redcoat, could she? She's trying to be a redcoat at her age as well. You know, she dresses quite tidily. She could probably be a good compere on a Saturday night, but she needs to do some voice training and she needs microphone technique. You know, you learn your technique, you learn your craft before you go on stage. You know, you can't get away with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, less said about that, the better, really. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of that guy since, actually. I don't know what happened, what became of him.
Exactly, because he was credible. That's why he was shut down, because he was credible. Sean Atwood, oh no, maybe he's the bottom one. Because that's the bottom feeder of the whole lot, isn't it? That is just absolute grift.
He gets everyone on his show, doesn't he? And,
but it's never about anything. It's always about what ifs, and we're going to expose. There's never anything on it. It's just like there's nothing on there. What's the point of it?
Just John Wedger talking about pedos, and and people love listening to that shit. That's what it. I'm not saying it doesn't.
Well, he's in the same. That Wedger's in the same kind of compartment as Baloney, really. Bill Baloney. They've never uncovered anything. They've never exposed anything. They've never done anything. He sells pictures of mugs with his mug on it, doesn't he? You know, he's got pictures of his mug on a mug. I mean, why would you want a picture of him on a mug for? You know, I'd pay you to take the picture of him off the mug because then it'd be useful. You know,
it's funny because I said earlier I could see through Stu Peters in about a nanosecond, and I know people that look at Wedger and say, I think he's one of them, you know. And I didn't get that vibe, but I know people who do. You know. Yeah.
Well, basically, judge them by their actions. What have any of these people ever done? Go back into the Windows on the World back catalogue. I'm not just doing this as an ad hominem attack. I'm telling you that we've always stuck to our guns. So I'm now removed myself from this ocean of nonsense, which is called the alternative media. And I've been doing it publicly for a while. And I've lost a lot of the people who would listen to me and idiots like Russell Brand. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Because we need to focus. Yeah. Okay. Great. Right. You look as though you're ready to wind this up, Will. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I've just remembered I put something.
I was going to wind it up 20 minutes ago, wasn't I?
I'm just thinking about.
Will you take criticism yourself, Mark? Yes, but you have to be specific in what you're talking about. Which bit of information are you criticizing? Which bit of information are you criticizing? That's the point. So if you tell me which bit of information you don't like or which you think's not true, I can respond to it because it's not about me. None of it's about me. None of the information I put out is about me. I'm not trying to promote myself, even though I could have done. So that's the issue. Sorry, Will, you want to wind it up?
Yeah, I just realised I've left the cooker on. I put it on.
What you were going to put your head in there? You were going to put your head in there before we started, weren't you?
I can't believe I've done that. But
okay.
Never mind.
Well, it's pretty warm here as it is, so don't need to do that. All right, then, Will, that was great. And
Thanks,
this
Mark.
is just a little warm-up for the greatest conspiracy hoaxes, which we're going to do over the next couple of weeks. And there will be some solid information in there. And the people who've promoted this stuff, it's useful to know who they are, because they will be on this track again, pushing you round in circles. And it's about time that stopped.
Know them by their bullshit. Yep.
That's it. That's it. Okay, then. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye. Bye.